guys.
Yo,
Hello.
Happy. I almost said Sunday.
happy day.
Happy day.
Happy day.
We don't have to judge the days.
I know we're live, so I'm going to speak in code. Brian, I would put cortisone on that rash.
Oh, it's time for us to kill the president.
Yes. The fact that they're asking for those things and pushing for this thing is a good sign of things.
Oh, okay, right on.
That's how you tell.
Rash, that is,
Yeah, it means the rash is progressing.
into the brain stem.
Like, hopefully we will achieve sepsis soon.
This segment's sponsored by Gold Bond.
Oh, yeah.
All right, recording over here. You guys want to do some weird things?
Yep.
Yo.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Andrew, take it away in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Weird Things Podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Smooth. I think we'll leave it just as is. That was perfect.
Well, there was a snort somewhere. That was the countdown, and then I heard a little snort. And then that's Brian Brushwood you just heard.
Yeah, that's right. What's up, people?
Brian, what are you going to do with your Brian Brushwood logo if Buckaroo Banzai comes back as promised by Kevin Smith?
Oh, I'm so excited for that. By the way, that's for those of you guys who don't know, I'm wearing a shirt like 10 years ago. I wanted a cool logo, but I didn't have any resources and no artists or anything. So I was like, you know what? Buckaroo Banzai had a cool logo. Let me just pay tribute to it by stealing it. And I figured one of two things would happen. Either people would recognize it as the Buckaroo Banzai logo with the bees facing each other, and they were like, oh, that's awesome, that's Buckaroo Banzai. Or they would not recognize it, and they would think I'm awesome. So it was kind of a win-win.
Win-win, totally. I have a Team Bonsai headband somewhere in my house in Florida.
Oh, that's great, dude. Buckaroo Banzai is such a great Mary Sue of a hero character. It's amazing.
Dude, Buckaroo Banzai was kind of like a life model. Really,
You're
at
like,
this point.
well, I guess you're right, because first you toured the world, and then you're like, well, now let me write some best-selling novels, and hang on, let me be a star of stage and television, and I'm
Still
Andrew Main.
working on the interdimensional thing. We'll see. Well, if there is a real-life Buckaroo Banzai, it is one of the frequent topics here.
Hi guys, I'm here too.
I introduced you at the very beginning. All right, wait, sound check. Did I not say Justin Robert Young?
You
at the
did
very
not.
top?
No, he did not. You missed it, I think.
Sorry, Justin. It's rare that I have you here. I sometimes forget that you're part of the show.
I mean, come on. I made both the shows last week. Like while I was out doing stuff. I wasn't on video.
I did 2 shows. Give me credit for this. I did
Oh
2
my
shows.
gosh.
Hey, man, can we get back to our post-apocalyptic road trip?
We're going to after this first segment, Brian.
Oh, wait. Oh, right on.
Okay,
Well, hold on.
sure. We can do another 30 minutes on Buckaroo Banzai though too. We'll just keep that in our back pocket.
I'm okay with all of this. All of this sounds awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what's the downside on that. We had a interesting. There was a unveiling this week. Elon Musk did they attempted to do a live stream, but for some reason outside of Reno, Nevada, it may not be the best place. It's all those UFO bases the government has. The live stream did not quite go all that well, but they did re-upload or upload the segment, and it was the unveiling of the Gigafactory, which is Elon Musk's plan, or Tesla's massive factory built in conjunction with Panasonic, which is going to be producing the battery packs for Tesla vehicles, specifically, or most likely the Tesla Model 3. The problem is that if you want to build a bunch of electric cars, you need a bunch of batteries. And if you're going to try to deliver the 500,000 Model 3s that Tesla has already taken down payments on, or whatever you want to call those advanced payments are, that means that you need to have a hell of a lot of batteries. And they looked at the total global supply of batteries and realized that there wasn't enough capacity on the entire planet to be able to deliver this. So therefore, they needed to build their own battery factory. And Elon Musk also looked at this as an opportunity to reinvent the factory itself. And keep in mind, too, this is an interesting sort of, there's the Chevy Volt or the Bolt versus Tesla sort of thing. And there's a lot of, fans of that talk to like, well, that, they're which horse they're betting on, which I think it's great that the more players, the better. But they don't have any plans for building massive battery factories. It's one of these things like there's criticisms that those other car company electric car initiatives are really being done just to meet government mandates and their fleet requirements, not to actually create a viable alternative to what they're selling. And that is warranted by the fact that none of them are really planning to build battery factories in any large capacity or putting in the capital investment you would need in order to support that kind of massive shift in the way vehicles work. But
so I'm going to assume you've already read all of these articles and you can walk me through it. But I remember hearing some talk that there might simply not be enough lithium for all those batteries that are planning to be made, or it's like we need to discover more lithium or something.
No, there's lithium is not going to be a problem. Lithium is a relatively abundant thing, and it's only a very, very minor part of the chemistry in there. And again, when we say lithium ion, I mean it could be. There might be other metals that play a much bigger place in it. And there was a couple years ago this scare because the Chinese were starting to, buy up a bunch of these different rare earth minerals. And there was this panic of what happens when we get them. And that was, 2 or 3 years ago. And that didn't bear out the way that we thought. Predictably, if you study economics, oh, well, we'll immediately start looking for alternative sources, and companies were even developing motors that didn't even require magnets or using entire electromagnets and stuff. And those prices have fallen considerably. Yeah. But they have, to my knowledge, Tesla has been making deals to make sure that they can maintain a steady supply of lithium in dealing with extraction and making sure that they're going to be able to do that. But that was never, I don't think that was going to be as a serious problem as we feared.
So, quick side jag. What about helium? Like, is helium going to be a problem?
So the helium thing is interesting. Helium on one hand is one of the most abundant elements in the universe. On Earth, it's because it's a gas, and once it reaches atmospheric level, it tends to escape. There are actually numerous sources of helium, but we created kind of a scarcity because we had in the United States, we created this big, huge helium reservoir, which was to, conserve our helium supply and to make it available. The problem is that for the longest time, we were selling that at below, let's say, what market prices would be. So we were de-incentivizing anybody else from doing helium, capture. Every time, just about every natural gas well you produce, you create, and you're pulling methane or whatever out of the ground, you're going to get helium. But it's not cost efficient to try to capture that helium. So we don't. And what's happened is that we created this artificial market of very, very low prices. And then we tried to correct that, but then we made it a much more complicated market. So there's still not a lot of incentive to try to create it. But when we look at actual helium reserves, if you type in Google search for helium reserves, you find out that under the Rockies, we think there's a ton more of it. We think there's a lot of it that's available if you just want to spend a little money to get it. And like oil or other things, we reached the limit of the current technology, and we're like, well, we're going to be running out. And then turns out we're not. So here's a headline. We're really not about to run out of helium. No, please stop it. We're not. And it's basically goes into the fact that helium is very abundant. It's one of these things that you have to develop ways in which to sort of, capture it. But we've just not been incentivized to develop that. So yeah, and this is, we've talked about this before, but I believe it was a Matt Ridley quote that he points out that humans have never, ever run out of non-renewable resources, full stop. Like what happens is right when you get to that point where you're about to, the price goes up enough that you just never run out of it because you find alternatives. Or in our cases, you find better extraction methods. That's been the story of fracking, and that's why peak oil, here we are in 2016, and peak oil is not really a serious thing anymore because we've discovered there's so many other proven reserves, there's so many other sources of this stuff, and we've developed technology to utilize when we reach certain price points, when it gets above $50 in oil, like, oh yeah, we'll use this technique to use these, this cruder grade. But if it gets to $100 a barrel, we'll go to this. If it gets to $300 a barrel, we'll go to, methane hydrates, which, will last us thousands of years. So it's one of these things where we like to do the doom and gloom and the helium thing. And there's short-term problems. Absolutely. Let me make very clear, short-term problems in helium production is that you could run into a problem where you could use the currently available supply, and then you have to go back and build capture systems and stuff like that to produce it. And it's to try to get like higher grades of helium too, to get it refined into like pure helium is costly and all this, but it's just it's a matter of money. And in a growing economy, which, for the last several hundred years, our economy has been consistently growing upwards, these things do become cheaper.
All right, last question. My grade school chemistry seems to remember that, I know that humanity is working on fusion reactors instead of fission reactors. Once we crack fusion, wouldn't the product of two hydrogens be a helium? Wouldn't we be able to just manufacture all the helium we want?
I mean, the energy cost on that would be so absurd.
Would be insane. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, I mean, what's interesting too, though, but to your point, though, is where does the helium come from? Because it's oozing out of the ground here. Why is it there? And it may very well largely be a byproduct of the fact that we are sitting on top of a large nuclear reactor. I mean, we have at the center of the Earth's core are all these extremely massive radioactive elements that are producing tremendous amounts of energy, and on top of the immense pressure contributing to the heat and producing things like some of like helium.
Wait a minute. I don't think I'd ever heard this before. The idea that, I knew the core was hot under the pressure, but I thought it was all just nickel and iron in there, just gloobing around. There's talk about actual fusion happening beneath the surface of the Earth.
Fission.
Okay. All right. Oh, got it. So you take heavier elements that break down into helium. Got it.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. I'm smart.
Yeah. So our Earth, what can't it do? Radioactive menace. So anyhow, what we're looking at after that, Big Jag, is the idea of this massive, massive factory that's going to be, robotic. It's going to be constantly evolving, and not at all Skynet.
I mean, my position. It's like, look, man, it's all going to be Skynet at some point, whether it's gently or forcefully. We're it's humanity's children that are going to be around.
Let me ask you this about the Gigafactory. Considering what they're looking to do with like the power wall and everything, is there a chance that by the end of this, the Gigafactory is the biggest thing that Tesla does, and not making cars, like just because the capacity of bigger, better, more robust batteries has more potential applications?
Well, I question that just because it seems like all this battery technology is very iterative and very, very tiny movements of the needle is in an increase of quality. And there's no doubt that a tiny movement of the needle in terms of efficiency and affordability will make a huge, huge difference to Tesla. But I don't know that this is their legacy. When we're looking at, 10x jumps for liquid metal batteries and so on, I don't know that this is their legacy, but I'd be interested to hear what Andrew thinks.
I certainly think that, part of it is that we look for these other radical technologies, and as we're waiting for them to be mature and reach the market, the one that we've been, the old, this one improves, and we get more efficiencies out of it than we thought. And that's happened in a lot of different things with silicon, et cetera, what have you. And to the question of what does this mean, Tesla, and when Elon Musk revealed his new master plan, Part 2, he talked about Tesla becoming Tesla being an energy company and also getting into every sector of transportation. They're just completing their acquisition or merger with Solar City, by the way. Which is they now want to be able to, doesn't just want to be able to sell you an electric car. They want to be able to sell you sexy electric panels that you can put on your roof that can then charge your power wall. And we're going to do, I think they're very much on to whatever the next generation battery technology is going to be. But, there's a long ways from, something working on some way on a lab bench to figuring out how it's cost effective and to make it economical. And there's so many opportunities commercially between there, and that we're seeing that we're going to get on lithium ion technology, we're going to get cars with 500-mile ranges. We're going to have that. That's not going to be a problem. you're going to get with lithium ion technology, you're going to get the capability of, a power wall that can power your house for a week. These things will, within a cost effective range within the next maybe 10 years or so. And yeah, we want those newer technologies, that sexier stuff, but it can take a long time for those things to mature and become price effective, even though the materials are cheaper. Because remember that there is one of the problems we have when we talk about like, oh, we need to bring manufacturing back to the United States. It's not just the fact that you have a factory in China. Is you have a factory in China next door to a factory that makes batteries, next door to a factory which produces the chemicals that makes the batteries, next door to a foundry that produces the metals that you use inside of those things. Is you need 500 factories to do that, not just the one that assembles it. Otherwise, you're shipping all that stuff to here, and you could say, great, let's have all those factories here. Well, we've spent 30 years getting rid of these dirty, nasty factories out of our country and trying to shift, our workforce into something above manufacturing. And, there's so many things that go into play there that it's not just, it pops out of it. That's kind of the weird direction we want to get into, though, is the idea of having these factories that can build anything. Have these factories that you could build batteries, you could build LCD screens or plasma screens, what have you. You could build cars and do that. And that's one of the next waves of manufacturing that Elon Musk is hinting at, is the idea that maybe we can get to the point where we just take the raw materials in one end and produce the full item out the other side.
Yeah. Man, there's a million different tangential threads I want to.
Bryce just threw up the graphic that Elon Musk showed, which is called vertical integration, and it has one side that says raw materials, then a factory, bunch of stuff happens, and then finished goods output.
Bunch of stuff happens.
Yeah. Musk says he's going to try to patent that formula.
What's funny is like, on the one hand, yes, he's a brilliant man and he's visionary and he seems to be batting a very high average. But on the other hand, you read that and it's like, this dude is writing crap on the back of a napkin after getting hammered one night. Like, you got stuff happens, you have finished products. Also, let's make a reference to Hot Shots.
He measured the Gigafactory. They were talking about, like, they explained that it can hold 93 Boeing 747 jets, and then Elon Musk pointed out 50 billion hamsters. Yes, he certainly is. That he has people around him that try to keep him in check whenever he starts to pontificate or go too out there. And you heard him say, like, I'd like to talk about electric airplanes, but they've gotten upset at me. But they full out said, we're building a semi, a tractor trailer, semi. They're building an electric semi, electric one of that. They're building a bus, and Jalopnik said maybe it'll be based on the Model X platform, and Elon Musk says possibly. So they're. Yeah, he's going a lot of different directions. He's got some really gifted engineers, and it's exciting. It's exciting. It's one of these things where, and the critics have no shortage of things to point out, of that. But this is, they were very, 10 years ago, people were very critical, and here we are in 2016, watching him unveil the largest, by square footage, largest factory on the planet.
Well, and that's what it kind of makes me think that there might be something more to the through line of the batteries, is that push comes to shove, whether or not every single one of Elon Musk's applications for those batteries pans out, the world will need higher capacity batteries and has for the past 25 years, right? Like, all we do is create more and more and more different, delightful, amazing things that all have the thing in common that they need better batteries constantly. And he's created a factory to put them out in mass.
Yeah, I think that he's very clear now. All the elements are there. They're acquiring Solar City, which is the largest, installer of solar panels in the United States. They have the power wall. They have all these elements. They're building an energy company. They're building a transportation and energy company. And the two biggest sectors of our economy are transportation and energy. He wants to take what they've learned in transportation, apply it to commercial areas, and go all in those directions. He wants to take what he's doing in energy and making it much more modular. Instead of trying to build an entire utility, he wants to build on a house by house level, build your own utility that you can then plug back into the grid, what have you. And, you need, and it's one of the things that gets one of the problems, sort of misunderstood things when it comes to a lot of these renewable energy sources is that, we're like, oh, we should build massive solar farms. Great. What do you do at night? And that's where you build massive solar farms, and then you end up having to build, gas powered plants, natural gas plants, whatever, to provide your energy at night, because the storage on a massive level is extremely expensive in the Tesla models to try to push that down to the individual level. People say, what about wind farms? Great. What about when the wind ain't blowing? Where's your energy coming from? You still got to build your energy plants. You still got to build these gas powered plants and stuff. And so, the big missing point in those forms of renewable energy is the storage. And either we're going to go try to have some massive storage thing where we're building football fields worth of batteries somewhere in the middle of places, which then becomes its own problematic and environmental hazard. Well, or we try to move that to the home.
Let's talk about that. I would love to hear more about the safety things they're doing on the Gigafactory, because lithium-ion batteries, the moment they get exposed to air, they explode, and you got a whole factory of this stuff. It just seems like a potential disaster. Wait, yeah, that's what happens when your laptop battery melts and starts charring and going crazy as everything oxidizes. It's lithium, as I understand it, and I'm going to get the chemistry all totally wrong. Like lithium, as it occurs in salts, is bonded to stuff, and then we refine it, and you get the pure lithium that are in the lithium-ion batteries. But the moment it's exposed to air, you get those uncontrollable fires. The way we saw when Tesla stock took a tanking when that one viral video came out of it. But yeah, here we go. As a matter of fact, Bryce has a little video pulled up on how lithium-ion batteries fail. But yeah. So that's I'm curious, and I'm sure they've thought about all this. I mean, it's not new technology, but the explosive nature of it all seems scary.
Well, yeah, when Tesla first started and they were, talking about putting batteries in there was the concern about the batteries, and Musk and the Tesla engineers point out, like, you're sitting on 20 pounds of gasoline.
Oh, sure.
That we transport around there. Anything that stores energy has the potential to rapidly release that energy, or just about anything does. And so that certainly is a consideration. And but we've been building battery plants for 200 years, and whether they're in some form or other, and I'm sure they're considering this.
Yeah. I guess I would just love to know more about how they ameliorate that risk.
Yeah, build it in Reno, Nevada.
Speaking of which,
speaking of building things, we're building something right here.
What are we building?
We're building the show.
Oh yeah, baby.
Honestly, I thought you were. Oh man, we had the same segue thought in mind, but different directions. I was going to say, speaking of Reno, Nevada, that's a road trip. But you're segueing into the Patreon plug.
Yes, I am.
Let me just deconstruct everything for everyone. Hey, man. We love doing the show. We love doing it on the reg. We hope you enjoy it. We hope we bring you awesome news and surprising facts and some silly scenarios. And you can support us, keep us regular, by heading on over to patreon.com/weirdthings and join the 400 plus patrons who keep us on the regs.
We need you. We need your support to make these things happen.
It's true.
But without it, we might not find out what'll happen to Justin and Brian on the road in a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
So where were we last time? We had just headed out west, right?
So you're headed out west to go find your pal, Andrew Mayne. And for those of you just tuning in, here's the scenario. Some virulent plague has just sort of wiped through and killed off almost all of humanity. Brian was huddled up in his house, podcasting to his dogs, and there was a knock at his door, and Brian almost picked him off with his rifle because he's paranoid and scared of everything around him. Then he realized that scraggly stranger was none other than Justin Robert Young. And the two of them decided to build themselves a battle wagon. Would you decide on a van? What kind of vehicle did you decide on?
Yeah, like a mid-size van. Although, man, did we get an angry tweet from some of our cyclist contingency that saying I was right and that the post-apocalyptic vehicle of choice is the bicycle.
And then
Okay,
they said that the
number
logic
one.
was with me, but they were emotionally attached to their bicycles.
Yeah. What one of our listeners wrote in, where it should also be noted that he is a endurance marathon bicyclist. So like he is very. I mean, this is somebody who was before he blew out his leg, which is its own commentary on whether or not this would be a great thing to have, long term. Was trying to go from Oakland to Austin via bicycle and had made it to Arizona before he injured himself. So he was very invested in his bicycle.
Yeah,
first-
and then he's proposing that in a dangerous post-apocalyptic wasteland that you use this same technique that failed him.
I still feel like all things being equal, the simpler method of transportation is the best. And I probably on my own would be having some kind of bicycle, super lightweight, low infrastructure necessity thing. But absent that, we're in a battle wagon. It's diesel
You
powered.
gotta go over 1,000 miles, Brian. You're going cross country,
Yeah.
and you have cars, and you decide on a bicycle, and you have hostiles everywhere.
No, okay. First of all, so far there's not been a single hostile encountered anywhere.
Right, I'm the one telling the story. So
I know. But second of all, you're quieter and you don't announce your. I mean, look. I mean, I would say if it was just me, I'd be on a
slower,
bike.
you're
But it's not just
vulnerable.
me. It's me and Justin. So we're in the diesel battle wagon.
It's a 24-hour drive.
All right. Well, let's head out west.
You don't know what kind of weather you're going to encounter. I didn't tell you there's winter, and you're going to be out there in your
Okay,
damn
hold on. Can
bicycle
we just
going
all right?
through
Just
snow?
once and for all with this bicycle thing. You got the bicycle thing from the Zombie Apocalypse book, right?
Yeah.
Which I think heavily overweights for the idea that a swarm of zombies would attack you and that they would be attracted by the sound.
No,
right?
but no. The principle was the same. Is that you don't if you're in a hostile environment, you don't want to announce your arrival with all these engine noises and stuff. It's a highly visible, very difficult to be sneaky.
You,
and
you
all
want to
that
be able to
stuff.
get out of the hostile environment as fast as you can without being vulnerable. My problem is if you come to okay, Brian, I want you to imagine that what you didn't know is like I went like totally crazy and insane, and I realized that like I did not want to be the dude on the back of the motorcycle in Mad Max with the chain around my neck. I needed to be the dude on the front of the motorcycle. Okay,
Right.
all right.
Okay.
So what highway are you on? You're on I-10.
Yeah.
Guess what I'm doing? I'm roadblocking that shit.
Okay, but since I'm not in a vehicle, I would ride my bike out into the desert around.
You don't know that it's. I'm not like I don't put a sign up there like the coyote from Roadrunner telling you there's a roadblock, Brian.
Well-
It's a secret road. I got snipers and stuff. I want your stuff. So like you don't know that, and you're like I'm on a bicycle. You come to a bridge, Brian. I roadblock the bridge. Okay.
Okay. Well, man, this is a weird. I thought we were going to progress the story. We seem to be going backwards here.
I'm because this bicycle thing. I'm just
By the way,
like
no, Brian. This is the argument that we're having inside the battle wagon because we still haven't settled, even in our post-apocalyptic world, we haven't settled the bicycle conversation.
I mean, and then of course, the weird part is like there's a giant double barrel bike rack in the back of this.
I'm letting you have
it
it.
just
I will
seems
let
like.
you have that.
Are you sure
All
we
right?
don't want to just even take a bicycle, guys? It just
Yeah,
seems
you can
like.
have Brian. You can put whatever bikes you want in there.
All right, good. We're loaded up with bikes.
Brian's like, I needed to go to the library. Why? I remember an article about a Navy SEAL team that used bicycles.
Yeah, okay, but see, that's not fair too, because like Navy SEALs have the infrastructure and support of modern military teams. We have no infrastructure, no support, and no way to predict what we're gonna have.
All right. How about this? We're gonna split the baby here. We agree that the best way to get long distances, right, is in our battle wagon, and that we stop in secured areas and then to investigate towns and gather provisions, which we would want to have more silently instead of pulling right into the center of town with all of our universe. We grab the bikes, we get on our compression shorts, and we head on into town with our backpacks.
Now you're talking. See, that's smart. I like your style.
Totally on board with it. But Brian insists on taking a clothespin and a baseball card and putting it in the spokes so it makes a.
I just like it. It sounds like I'm on a motorcycle, guys.
So You guys got to lay down some ground rules here then, okay? Because like you're driving along, you look up ahead and you see somebody walking along kind of dressed and like covered up really like maybe holding on to something.
Oh, geez. So your question is like, do we treat other human beings as predators or compatriots?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would kind of look for. So have we encountered one?
This is your first encounter, Brian. You see them up ahead on the road. Do you stop? Do you guys have a discussion?
All right.
I would say yes.
Wait, hold on. Let's go ahead and lay out what our objectives are, okay? The first thing that we want to do, if there were some sort of natural disaster, right? Like a hurricane or something like that, we would understand that the world was indeed in peril. But would you stop for everybody that seemed a little lost along the road before you got back to your family, Brian? No, you drive by them, you'd find your family, you'd get everything settled, and then you would look to help other people. So, I mean, part of me says, hey, listen, sure, it might be terrible that they're living in this post-apocalyptic world, but until we get to LA for Andrew and Oakland for Ashley and find out whether or not they're okay, my capacity to help, my reservoir for compassion has kind of run dry.
No, I disagree, because here's the thing. This is the reason the United States is largely an extrovert society, is because during frontier days, when you got to an area, you need food, water, and you need information. You need to know where the Indians are attacking and this stuff. So there's a evolutionary bias to
Why are the Indians attacking, Brian?
whatever natives. They're all attacking. Everybody's attacking us at all times, and I need to know what's going on. And so that's why you make the 4-mile hike over to your neighbor. You knock on the door. You shake their hand. And you're like, "I'm Brian. I'm a real person. You're a real person. Let us exchange information. The most valuable of resources." And so in that regard, we have to have a frontier mentality. We have to stop and talk to everyone we have the chance to do so, unless we get information suggesting that there's an ambush in wait. Now, we don't have to be dumb about it. We could just chat with them, and maybe you got like double-barreled sawed-off shotguns, trained on them as we approach, and then have a conversation.
So here, I hop out of the front, just like open up the door, right? And I'm doing like the standing on maybe the seat, so I'm leaning over the door like it's a shield thing.
Yeah. All right, now we're talking. Okay.
And I'm like, yeah, all right, drop your guns and lift your sack.
All right. Hold on. He didn't mean that. He's a little uptight this one. Hi,
Lift him.
All right, hi, I'm Brian. This is Justin. We're doing podcasts across the ruins of America, and we saw that you. Would you like to hear our podcast? We could do it for you right now.
I'll shoot you in the face if you don't drop your gun.
All right, no, listen. I'm sorry. He's a bit of a nut one. This guy. He's the wild card.
Can you tell we're playing good frontiers?
So you get closer, and it's a woman.
Oh, it's a woman. That's great.
She's holding a bundle. Holding a bundle in her arms.
How old is this woman?
Just a little scraggly. Look at maybe mid-20s, maybe. She's holding something in her arms.
Hey, ho!
Throw your bombs on the floor as hard as you can.
No. Hi, what's your name?
Oh, she's startled. She turns to you, and she's, amazed, and she eyes light up, and she smiles, and she says, "My name's Tessa."
Hi, Tessa. I'm Brian. This is Justin. So
I thought we were all alone.
Oh, no. Just 99% of all of us have been killed. We found that out because Andrew Main is our friend. You haven't seen Andrew, have you? I know he's still 10,000 miles down the road.
No. Andrew who?
Okay, that's fine. It's fine.
What you're holding isn't a bomb by punching it in the face as hard as you can.
Yeah. What you got there? Do me a favor. Stay still. Just what you holding?
This is my baby Thomas.
Wait, Thomas was spared from the plague?
Oh, we were very lucky. We're very, very lucky. I took care of him.
All
right, hey, team meeting.
Okay, real quick. I mean, I think she needs some water, and I got some prenatal vitamins. Maybe.
Listen, there's an old frontiersman tale that says she needs two things: the sound of our squealing tires and our exhaust.
That's not a real thing.
Kept at
Look,
God.
all right, look, you realize that if she's holding an actual living baby, then that's important scientific advancement. We could find out maybe there's a genetic way to defeat the plague.
Okay, file that one under W for who gives a bleep. Let's down the road. This lady is
All right,
creepy and weird.
let me just chat with her a little bit more. Hey, Tessa, listen. Crazy new bit we're doing on Night Attack on the Road. It's called Justin Thinks You're Holding a Bomb or a Dead Baby. Let's settle it once and for all. We have a straw poll going on this old piece of poster board we found. Right now, the votes are 1-1 for Dead Baby, Live Baby. What say we wrap this bit up?
He's just sleeping.
Okay.
All right, come
Can
on.
you show him? Can you? How close to? Okay. Here's the question. We gotta know if this kid's alive. How close do you get? Do you get within? Do you walk up?
I'm going negative. In fact, I'm walking away from the car because it's too close for my
All right,
leg.
I'm walking over, hunched over, hands up in a non-threatening way. Walking as close. I get like two or three steps
All right, real
away.
quick. All right, before you walk over to her. Have
By
you
the way,
heard-
there's an actual straw poll running right now, and the votes are coming in. So far, it's 2-1 on Dead Baby or Bomb.
Ryan, before you go over there, have you heard my favorite song? I got the song stuck in my head.
Yeah, what is it?
No,
No.
We need to
No,
go
hold on. Just
right
1 second.
now.
1 second. Let me get close. I get in and I just reach up and I pull back the blanket off of whatever she's holding. What do I see?
What you see, we'll talk about next week
damn it.
on Weird Things.
All of our time on the bicycle discussion. All right, new rule. We're done with this bicycle thing, right?
Yes.
I
Look,
think we reached a great compromise.
I
with the
think we all are on the same page. My concerns about infrastructure and having to fix cars is settled because we have the bicycles as a backup.
Ryan, why are you putting a bell on the bike? Why are you doing that?
Ching 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 ching.
He's got the horn. It's like rigged it out to the most baller bicycle ever.
Yes.
I know. We pick up like next thing you know, we're rolling like those the East LA lowrider bikes. You know.
He's
Yeah.
got a big stereo on the back. Low rider.
Yeah, dude. I'm looking at a picture of it right now. I'm gonna look great. So, do we have another story, or do we want to go into picks?
We have we can jump into picks if we want, and then go right into after things if you like.
Yeah, let's do picks because I got a nostalgic pick for you guys, and I was thrilled that Bryce hadn't seen it. I stumbled across Gary Whitta is the writer of Book of Eli. He wrote the script for Rogue One coming out this fall. I've been following his career since 1990s when he was editor-in-chief of PC Gamer magazine, and he's done a few podcasts and stuff. But I noticed that he had changed his Twitter avatar to something that nobody would recognize. His Twitter avatar. In fact, can we get that on there? Can we see if any of these guys know what it is?
And just a quick side note, he's not actually the writer for this version of Rogue One.
Well, yes, right. He wrote the original script, and then I don't know. Yeah, it goes through the Disney machine, and everybody makes all the changes, and then something comes out.
Yeah.
Do you guys recognize his Twitter avatar?
Oh shoot!
But
That
don't say
looks
it. Don't
like
say it.
it's-
Don't say it. Describe it.
I don't.
Describe it for the audience if you can, though.
It's like a celestial arrangement of planets.
Yes.
It's like a star chart.
Yes. It looks like a blue, faded, dusted up star chart. We'll see if anyone in the chat room gets it either. But I instantly recognized it, and instantly I was back in the second grade because that is the infamous map from Time Bandits. And if you haven't seen it, Time Bandits is one of the most delightfully strange, outrageous movies with such powerful, dark, postmodern, insane imagery in there. It was directed by Terry Gilliam back in, 1981? Yeah, 1981. David Warner, who would go on to play all the bad guys in all the movies you ever watched. He was the bad guy in Titanic. He was the bad guy in Tron. He was the bad guy in everything. John Cleese shows up. Sean Connery, Shelley Duvall, Ian Holm. It's amazing. And also 12 Dwarfs that you didn't know about. Kenny Baker, the guy who was inside R2-D2, right? Is it Kenny Baker?
Was Kenny Baker one of them? I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, no. Well, he's definitely in Time Bandits. He plays Fidget.
Yeah, he was the one. He was in R2-D2, yes.
Yeah. So it's about a bunch of really dumb dwarfs who worked on the creation of the planet Earth for the Supreme Being, but they're not too bright. They found a map of all of the frayed edges in the fabric of the universe. And so they decided with this awesome power, they were going to abscond and steal stuff throughout time in history. And they end up pulling a kid along for the ride, and it's so awesomely
encountering
bizarre.
Napoleon and others. It is one of my favorites. I own it on iTunes. I love that movie so much.
Yeah, you can't stream it anywhere right now. You can rent it just for a couple bucks on Amazon. That's probably worth it. But if you can buy it, then that's even better.
I bought that thing. That was my pick like a year ago. You go back and it's one of those. There was from like 1980 to 1985. There was such a wonderful period of movies because of the success of Star Wars, Jaws, and like Raiders, and I mean Star Wars and just some of the summer movie sorts of things. The success of Kid Fair, where kid movies all of a sudden became the highest grossing movies, which was not the norm prior to basically Star Wars. You had a lot of really amazing things happen that you never were going to happen again like that. You look at that period and you have Back to the Future, you have Time Bandits, and so many of these other amazing films that came out. And
so in trying to tell Bryce about it, I encountered the trailer, which I hadn't seen in forever. The trailer's delightfully postmodern because it begins with a trailer guy talking about how he does trailers and wants to eventually get in front of the camera and act. And then they start comparing it to Star Wars and listen to some of this.
You went to Superman to see a man fly. You went to Star Wars for the droids. You went...
Now what?
What's page 2, man?
It's under page 1. See? Oh, dear.
Went to Star Wars. Time Bandits can offer you much.
I didn't realize this is our America Grindhouse trailer, man. I just realized you haven't seen bandits travel through time like this, America.
And it written by Michael Palin and Terry Gilliam. I mean, and so it's very much if you love the Monty Python universe, this is a wonderful doorway into part of that.
Yeah, a lot of that, like that unseen arguments, both internal and external kind of bit that was used so effectively with Monty Python is certainly on display. I love this movie. This movie's great.
Great appearance by Sean Connery in it too.
Yeah.
It's nice sort of way he shows up. Justin, do you have a pick?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've kind of been in a media black hole over the past 3 weeks with the conventions and everything. So I haven't really seen a whole lot new. However, I did read a lot of the reviews for Suicide Squad today. It comes out on Friday. And it has made me really, really, really excited to rewatch Guardians of the Galaxy. And not necessarily a slam on Suicide Squad. I haven't seen it. I don't know exactly, how much how much this movie succeeds or fails. But a lot of what the reviews have talked about in terms of where it struggles is in trying to introduce a lot of new characters. And I even read one review that said, imagine if you had to start the Marvel Universe with the Avengers, which I don't think is the proper comparison. And the closer one is, how amazing did Guardians of the Galaxy do in introducing, within the first half of the movie, all of our main characters, giving them all unique characteristics, all unique personalities, all unique motivations that all kind of wove in and out. You include characters like Yondu and Nebula. Thanos is obviously this kind of big, larger, sinister figure at work. But, it just did such an amazing job of Andrew and I were talking about origin stories and everything yesterday, and specifically that first pre-credit sequence with Peter Quill and his mom and his family that ends with him getting abducted, spoiler alert, is like amazing. And it just shows you how much that film got storytelling, got characters, and was able to just sort of skip a lot of the tedious stuff that I'm going to just assume, since I read it in so many different reviews, that is maybe a clunkier part of Suicide Squad, where you've got a few characters that are obviously a leap off the screen fun, and then there's like all the oins and gloins of the Hobbit franchise, where you're just like, okay, I guess these guys are just sort of on the train too.
It's, man, yeah. I listen. We'll have to see it, figure it out. But my
Not me.
my
I won't
fear,
see it. Protest vote. That movie
that?
is owned by DTNS, and I'll be good goddamned if I'm going to give them even $1 on their movie draft.
Yeah, of course. That always an argument. Like, we should see it before you decide. I'm like, well, like, do I have to give my money to everything? Like, there's like the Ghostbusters debate. We should see it first. Like, well, I'm not that interested in this whole discussion. So, but Suicide Squad, like, man, I mean, this is certainly something we want to be good, and I hope that maybe the fans are gonna have a much stronger reaction and positive than the critics have so far. But it's hard when you want to do those ensemble things, and then often you when you see the signs of movies that you look at, you go, oh man, they had a thing, and then they went back to try to make this thing work. Pixar's brilliant at that. Marvel has been fantastic at that. We're going to find out how good Disney Star Wars is with that. But the problem often is like, oh, we need to top load this so you care for the characters. And that often just fails because it's like, yeah, great, maybe we like them up front, but if we're not caring for them throughout the rest of the movie, then you can't front load that with anything that'll make that work. But not to say that's the case here at all. So we'll see. The Rolling Stone review was...
Yeah, I haven't read that one, but that is apparently an absolute thrashing.
Yeah, there's the headline I'm seeing right now said, Suicide Squad review. These heroes may be bad, but their movie is even worse.
Well, and it describes the direction as limp male appendage, and then says made Fantastic Four look good, which I don't think is possible. I think that's just sometimes the pile on critics is, a little bit. And listen, there's often been things where the critics don't get and people love. So I think I don't know anybody who's rooting against this movie. I don't know anybody that's rooting against it,
including us. I mean, except for me, because I don't want Team DTNS to win the summer movie
box
draft.
office.
I just need an underperforming first week, and then that's fine. As soon as the trajectory is off, then we can all go see it immediately on week 2. What I think is the most interesting is that the proportions in which these characters are in the movie. Specifically. I only in this last round of television ads that I saw pop up during the conventions did I see Will Smith's Deadshot be like, anything resembling even a co-lead with Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, and to read all the reviews, he's pretty much the protagonist of the movie.
Well, given the box office success of their last duo effort with those two guys.
Yeah, exactly. Crackling off the screen already. I think it's one of those things that's actually like not surprising, because why would Will Smith want to do, a movie that he's, going to be the third lead in? But at the same time, I think it just shows you how much Warner Brothers feels like is riding on this movie, that they've tried to just steer so far into whatever fan perception was to make that be the movie that everybody wanted. Although, the one other thing, and just I want to make this about how much I like Guardians and how much, not how much I'm now dubious about Suicide Squad, but one of the other elements of the reviews is that apparently this is like a chock full of pop songs kind of film. That like almost every other scene is a pop song, and it's something that like, the using the idea that Peter Quill has this tape player and it's got this mixtape and it means something to him. And so now either when we're physically seeing him play a song on either his ship or on his headphones, or, we're just hearing songs that are also from that era, it always kind of came back to this emotionally resonant point as opposed to just being a Mountain Dew commercial where they paid a lot of money.
And plus, also, not only was it emotionally resonant, but it also implied that there's a level of self-reflection to Peter Quill that you don't ever see on the surface. He's all just being an asshole and all about being in the moment. But you know that every time he's listening to that music, he's really thinking about being home and being in that moment with his mom.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a character choice and not a filmmaker choice. And that's often problematic where you watch stuff and then something gets my problem. And again, I know it's rare. Like part of my problem with Batman versus Superman is that like that one of my many problems with that. And there's a great breakdown explains problem is that like that's a movie composed of moments and not scenes, which was my criticism of Man of Steel. And then he uses as an example the farmhouse scene in Avengers. Like, here's how you can have a whole scene, which I'm like, yeah, that's a scene that didn't need to be there. But the point is taken is that these moments in Batman versus Superman and Man of Steel, it's like, it's like if some super fans are going to feel it, you see Superman on the screen, they're going to get excited. But like, man, did they like really try to push that soundtrack to try to get you to feel something, the dun, dun. No, really, we're gonna play this louder now. Like the Wonder Woman stings every time she does something might be kind of cool. They do the same damn stings, and I'm like, yeah, this is what you do when you're trying to fix something that ain't there. And I was nervous about the Suicide Squad commercials and how they were like they tried to fix Batman versus Superman by using like the rock score, and then watch them do the same thing with Suicide Squad, where they're really trying to push that in the commercials with this. Here's these great rock songs, and here are these, here's this movie that has absolutely nothing to do with this whatsoever, other than we're trying to tell you we're cool.
Mm-hmm.
Then the fact that we also listen to the Wayne's World soundtrack.
Yes. But that was a soundtrack that was perfect to them. It fit them.
It's great. I mean, I have that soundtrack. That was great. Yeah. I mean, it might be the only reason why Blitzkrieg Bop is in any way looked at as anything other than a terrible song, because it's not a great song, but it was amazing in Wayne's World. When you believe
start a Ramones fight, man.
Dude, well, it's not the Ramones, is it? I thought it was somebody else. No, sorry, Blitzkrieg Bop. I thought you were talking about.
No, Ballroom Blitz.
Ballroom Blitz. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, wrong song.
And I would say that I'm excited to find out they are going to release a Stranger Things soundtrack.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
So, looking forward to that. My pick. So I've been working on a project, which we'll be talking about more at some point. It's basically it's a thing for authors to make their lives much easier and like easily create websites, etc. for them. Because when I'm writing, I can't listen to lyrics. I can't watch TV. I have to be focused on writing. But when I'm coding, it's totally different because then I can watch TV and stuff. So I've watched a ton of TV as on my little iPad Pro here as I sit here in front of my computer. And I've got enough picks for like months now. But I'm going to go with two picks. One quick pick. They only did one season. It was based on the Christopher Pike series Spooksville. Really enjoyed that. I think it was on Amazon. But my big pick, Gordon McGibbon's Life on Normal Street, the Amazon original show.
Oh man, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, no.
So this is, I saw the ads for it, and it kind of looked to me like, it looks like kind of like kid fare, whatever kind of thing. But let me, I'm looking for something to watch, so why don't I just go ahead and watch this? And the first episode was. It was for me a little bit quirky, a little bit slow paced or whatever. But then once I got into the groove of it, I loved it. It takes elements of Adventures of Pete and Pete, Erie, Indiana, really fantastic kid casting and casting whatever. It's this kid who lives in this place called lives on Normal Street, and he and his friends get into these adventures that have like weird outcomes and stuff. So it's got this sort of sci-fi fantasy element to it. Extremely well done. It was the story of this was interesting. Is the guy who created it, David Anax Agoras, and I actually wrote him a fan email just to tell him how much I enjoyed it. He kindly responded back. He got into screenwriting. He wanted to be a screenwriter and wasn't having much success. And he would actually, I guess he'd been a preschool teacher before, and he decided to give up. Give it up. He gave up screenwriting, and then the last thing he did was Amazon had an open call for submissions for TV shows, and he put together his idea for Gordimer Gibbons' Life on Normal Street and submitted it. And the next thing you know, gets greenlit by Amazon, and he's created his own TV show. Amazon did a 13-episode first season, and then they did a double 2-season 2. So I'm watching this. I'm like, oh, I'm getting really into this. And then I get to the end of like the season 2. I'm like, man, this is a great cliffhanger. I can't wait to see how it ends. And they find out, like, nope, that's it. This is it. This is the entirety of Gordimer Gibbons. There are going to be no more episodes. I'm like, ah.
Oh my God.
So
this is an Amazon Prime thing?
Amazon Prime and Amazon Originals. So Gordimer Gibbons, highly, highly, highly recommend. I think for our Weird Things audiences, I think people would really dig it. It's a fun, quirky show. It's the kids on it. Like I said, the characters are very well developed. It's a very neat premise, and just really enjoy it.
So wait, so he was quitting and then he got this thing. Is he now going to do more stuff, or is he like just following?
Oh yeah, I mean he's produced one of the most highly rated children's television shows in the last couple of years now. So I think he's probably back in the business.
Good. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know if that was factoring into your like no more episodes ever thing.
No, it's like on this website he says no more and that's it. And then I guess that was the final deal with that. And so I don't know if it's, never say never, but I know talking to some people, like there are pros and cons to doing Netflix and Amazon deals, and the good side and the bad side. And I think sometimes creators like, that's great, now I want to go do elsewhere. That might be the case. I don't know. So,
yeah.
I can pester him again and ask him more questions. So.
Yeah. Hey man, when is your next thing? Remember when you did that show? It's awesome.
Yeah. All right, chat room. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is starting to prove that Marvel's getting TV. No, never. Daredevil proved that.
Yeah, fair enough. But Daredevil is almost a very different animal. I mean, just the world of broadcast television versus what they attempted or succeeded in doing with the first season of Daredevil.
Too, basically.
Say again?
It's run differently than the...
Yeah. I mean, the rules about the kind of stories that they can tell and
people telling the stories.
Yeah.
Biased. I have a friend of mine was the head writer for season 2 of Daredevil.
Oh, no kidding. That's awesome. Dude,
no idea. I'm like, this is really good. And then the credits come up. I'm like, I know her.
That's awesome.
Pull up my phone like, oh, gee, this is so good. Wow.
That is awesome.
Cool. Gentlemen, no matter where you are, there you are. Something like that. It's been weird.
Yay!
Alrighty.
Yeah, Waffleovagus says DC has a great record with animation. They should stick to animation. Listen, they just did The Killing Joke. I haven't seen The Killing Joke. I don't know why they would want to make The Killing Joke into an animated movie, except for the fact that it's a name comic that people know about. But The Killing Joke, I mean, to me is notable more for what it did with those characters at that very specific time in comics than it is a good story, because it's not really a good story, and it's maddening for the sake of maddening and violent and gross for the sake of being violent and gross. And I am not shocked that them trying to gussy it up did not lead to it being a better story. But yeah, well, Year One and Dark Knight Returns are better stories. Year One's a great story. Year One's the best story of the three of them. Dark Knight Returns is great for the Millerness of it, and it certainly they're very interesting takes on all the characters involved. But like, aside beyond the iconic nature of it, like there are some things that just aren't great. That aren't great stories. That they're memorable and they're fun. But like, unless you are going to take a very specific take on them, like I don't know why you'd say like, oh look, this is something that's, because it's also really like I would have almost preferred for them to go away from Kevin, was it Conroy, who does the voice for Batman, and Mark Hamill, who does the Joker. Like, I would have preferred for them to go away from those voices for the Killing Joke, because if you're gonna do it, like, it's weird that the same Joker from, for many of our childhoods watching the animated series is the same one that's like doing some of the just truly disgusting, vile stuff that happens in the Killing Joke. Like, it's not like, oh, well, another wacky scheme by the Joker. It's like, no, let me mutilate you and use these weird, bizarre, like sadomasochistic, sexual, like rape fantasy things to torment somebody. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I read The Killing Joke years ago on friends were like, oh, you got to check this out. And it's like, they sold me on what happened, not how it happened, where, what did I love? Like if you said, hey, what was cool about, Year One, which wasn't a great comic, but was a good, solid one, was, I got to watch the evolution of Bruce Wayne into Batman. And, what made, Batman Begins so good was this, instead of this, not why I became a bat or what's life like for this, it's like that intermediary period and what's interesting about that. And so I think Year One is great. I mean, I loved, what I loved about Dark Knight Returns was just the idea of this Clint Eastwood aging Batman trying to be Batman. The resolution was nowhere near as important as just how is he adapting to this world.
All right. Well, I know we have a limited time with Brian, so let's try to get through After Things as much as Everything's as Brian can do.
Yeah.
I will stay as long as we need.
All right. Well,
Good, because you're our main subject.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Ready?
We're ready.
Yep.
You want
Is
to
that a
count
countdown?
Okay. I was making sure. Take us away in 3, 2.
Welcome to the After Things podcast, where we talk about things after weird things. Joining me is Brian Brushwood, as usual.
Hi, but more importantly, Justin Robert Young is here.
Our special guest, Brian. You just jumped right into. You just killed my intro, Brian.
Sorry.
Our special guest returning from several weeks of convention coverage for the BitTorrent news. Brian, I'm excited to hear what Justin has to say about this, because Justin has been out covering news like a real adult dressed in a Charmander costume. And I want to know, how did this happen? How did you get approached? How did this, hesitant to call BitTorrent, this mature but still a grown-up organization by our standards, by sure. They reached out to you. They said, we want you. How did this happen?
Okay, so the genesis of all this is really the Contender. I mean, there's kind of some other factors that built up to it, but we invented the Contender, and we wanted different ways that we could get out there and talk about it. So instead of, and this might have been to our detriment, necessarily just focusing on card game conventions and stuff like that, we wanted to do a little bit of non-traditional marketing and really go out, considering this was an election year, and bring it to people who liked politics, to kind of sell it and give it our street cred there. And so we did the trips out to Des Moines, Iowa for the caucus, and to Manchester, New Hampshire for the primary. They were very, very successful. But what happened afterward is that I wound up getting into a conversation with somebody through Daily Tech News Show. He's a reporter for the Tech Republic, Dan Patterson, who's an awesome and amazing dude. He knew that also, as it turned out, simultaneously in Manchester, not but a few feet from where we were screwing around, there was a contingent from BitTorrent that was looking to do a proof of concept for a news network so they could both A, get money within BitTorrent, and B, get credentials for the Republican and Democratic conventions. So they did that. They found out that I was there, that I was interested, and that especially on Daily Tech News Show, I had opinions on at that point it was just the tech of politics. I wind up getting hooked up with the vice president of media out there at BitTorrent, and since I'm local comparatively, I'm in Oakland and he's in San Francisco, we wind up having a conversation together, and it wound up just coming together like that. You know, it was definitely a fun, you know, it was a quick start sort of situation, but man, it was an absolute blast to get out there.
So
I had no idea that. I guess I should be surprised that this came about because of the work you've been doing in The Contender, where you've been out there promoting. You've been very, very public in doing that and pushing your name out there. It is certainly a testament to you don't know where things will come at you. You know, you don't know. I once got years ago an offer of a 6-month cruise ship gig because somebody heard me on a radio show explaining why psychics were full of it. And it was the head of entertainment for one of the largest cruise lines, who I'd pitched and pitched and pitched before to no response. And then he heard me on the radio and he's like, I like this guy. I agree with this guy. I'm going to give this guy 6 months worth of work.
Well, and that's one of those things where the real key for this to happen, you could point to previous relationships and all this stuff, but the real key is that you started doing something without getting paid. You just started doing politics. You just started doing The Contender with the intent of making it turn into something. And so often it's only after, like, that's the biggest difference to landing a gig. Like, there's zero chance I would have gotten Hacking the System move forward if I couldn't point to a body of work that was peripherally related, like that would allow people to imagine, oh, this is what it's going to look like as a television show. And you being able to point to politics makes, I'm certain, all the difference in the world to landing that kind of gig.
Yeah, I mean, I one of my favorite phrases, and I heard it from the television writer David Milch initially, but it's a very old phrase, is that miracles happen to the prepared, and that the idea is that everywhere around you, there is the opportunity that you've always wanted. And it is just your ability to recognize it and hook into it that is the difference between you living the life that you want to live and you not, and wondering like, well, look, I mean, if I only had the break that this person had, then, things would be a lot different for me. And so, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it sort of comes together is that at the end of it, once I got the gig, we all got flown out, and this was a crew that had never worked together and all had very different skill sets. And everything that I'd worked on before, and specifically the internet, that kind of training that I had or experience that I had rather, kind of felt, it was the big driver, because at the end of the day, they're like trying to fill out the schedule, and they're like, all right, well, we want to do rolling gavel to gavel coverage of everything that happens at both conventions. So who do we use for it? And there was nobody else that felt comfortable or had the inclination to sit in front of a camera for 6 hours a night.
How does that, I don't know how much it starts to feel like gossip or whatever, but like, how does that conversation go where you essentially stand up and say, I could talk forever, give me a chance, coach?
I mean, I'm very aggressive about it. So, I mean, I don't know how it would have happened with other people, but for me, it was just like, they're like, yeah, now we got to fill all this other time. And I'm like, me? Okay, fine. So we're done with that. What other stuff do you have to fill? I just knew I could do it, though, also, is that the idea of looking at a chat room and keeping a thing going is not new to me.
I guess that goes back to again, the reason that this all happened is because you started practicing alone in your room to an internet, not having any idea how many people were ever going to look at it or whether it would be profitable or lead anything. You knew for a fact you could do it because you already had.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing. And also it's like, you there is something to be said about recognizing moments and recognizing like when it is time to really, put your skills to work, and you always want to be grinding. You always want to be putting things out there. But, I knew for me, I couldn't, it would be far less of an opportunity for me if I just went out and kind of was part of a team for BitTorrent, considering that there was no hierarchy there. Like there was nobody that I really had to leapfrog or become a part of their, like this largest part of it. It was all open field. So it's like, for me, if I go out there and I contribute, cool, that's great. It's experience. I'll really like it. I think it was super fun.
It was amazing. A video, nobody saw it, but I just hear the sound of things crashing, and then I see the guilty expression of Andrew Mayne at that moment. That was amazing.
I keep a box of toys like magic tricks and stuff next to my desk. Excuse me, I gotta pick up my billiard ball, my coin purse. Please continue with your story. So sorry to interrupt you.
Well, so
what's this? A giant coin?
So you get out there, you get the gig, and it becomes clear that everybody's building this themselves. And number one, you know, there's some aspects to the coverage that were a little bit rough around the edges that I took to mean like they were much more interested about moving quickly than getting it right the first time. And you saw iterative changes as it was happening, right?
I mean, again, it's not like we had a week that we had set up in a warehouse in Cleveland before the convention where we did a week's worth of coverage to kind of work out the kinks.
Yeah.
The first time that everybody saw us on Monday morning for the RNC was the first time. I mean, hell, here's how it worked. I was on a red eye from San Francisco to Cleveland. I landed in Cleveland. I met everybody for the first time ever, and then came back to where I was staying in Cleveland to do the Weird Things podcast 2 weeks ago. And then from there, everything you saw past that was the first time that we were doing it, and then sequentially afterward. So what I had to do in my mind, my goal was that, let's be the standout on this, or at the very least, be somebody that doesn't look lost. I in a lot of ways, I kind of felt like this was me trying to sort of validate that what we do is, we like to joke around that we're just horsing off around in front of a webcam, but it is its own kind of broadcast language. It is its own kind of broadcast medium. And what I wanted to do was try to make that, show to everybody else that, like, hey, look, there's other people that have done television. And I worked a lot with Michael Schur, who, was a host on Current TV and Al Jazeera, for which the jokes are aplenty. And currently works with the Young Turks a lot. But he's a dude for whom has had not one but two shows built around him as the lead host. And, my goal was, when me and Michael are on camera together, I want it to be that there are two people who belong on camera together, and he's going to do his television thing and I'm going to do my internet thing, and hopefully we will have an interesting show because of it. And that was just me trying to understand the lay of the land and lay out good achievable goals that we could work toward.
So was there I assume all those discussions about the unique, I guess, I don't know, zany vibe you were going to bring, like they knew that you're going to bring color to the coverage, right?
I think they knew. I don't know if they knew exactly to the point that
there's a difference between knowing and being prepared. Is that
all right? So when I suggested that we walk around the floor of the Republican National Convention in a Charmander suit, everybody laughed and thought it was a funny idea. What they didn't expect was that I had a Charmander suit packed with me. And I think that was probably the biggest, the biggest thing that was the difference, was that, I am somebody that very obviously, if you've listened to the politics show, wanted to, I love the fun elements of politics where you can get them. And I think that was a fun way to do it, but I take that far more seriously than I think that they had initially thought.
There's a lot of lessons there. And one of the things I appreciate is that you've always had this willingness to just sort of just jump right into things. And I've had some of the best things that have happened in my life have when I've showed up and things have been disorganized, instead of sitting around going, well, great, this sucks, is going, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And when they don't know, figure something out. And it might be something as simple as like, oh, everybody's going to want to eat in 30 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and order some pizzas and take care of it. So we'll have these things here, And when you're the person that jumps in and starts not bossing people around, but like, I was at a party a week ago at a friend's house, nice big party in a mansion. And I noticed it was, later in the night, I started picking stuff up. I started cleaning up the tables and stuff because I didn't know if they had to clean up or if they had a staff to clean up. But I'm like, you know what? Let me put a little bit of order here. And, by and large, those little things, they just help you reputationally. They also make you look like the person people want to go to get things done, because even if it's the small stuff.
Well, and what's beautiful about that is that that's a superpower everybody can have and use at any time, is just do a thing. If you begin that kind of task saying, I am okay with it if somebody comes up and says, hey, man, you don't need to clean up. I'd really prefer if we didn't. I already hired a service. It's going to be fine.
Which is what happened.
Yeah, that's great. But likewise, we're getting ready to go to a convention, and we got a guy who is just good at this kind of stuff, and so he knows what problems need to be solved, and so but he didn't call and say, hey, when it comes to laying stuff out on the table, you need to be thinking about this, that, and the other thing. Instead, he just texted us a picture of all the stuff we're going to have at the convention in shadow boxes laid out with mocked up little price tags on there. And all of a sudden he didn't have to explain to us all the things to do and then make that our job and then hassle us to follow up. He just did it. And the worst case would be that we'd say, oh, well, that's not really what we had in mind. But instead I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, no, this is perfect. Solved. And all of a sudden, like, I will never go to a convention without tapping this guy again.
Yeah, that's being proactive, and it fits back into too, is that, you know, we've all had opportunities come our way because people have seen the things that we've done, and it doesn't happen right away. It doesn't happen immediately when you want it to happen. You know, you sometimes start doing something like, all right, world, all right, ready, yeah, and then crickets, nothing but crickets. And we've talked about this before. It's when you stop paying attention, you just keep doing it when other people start to notice. And Justin has been super serious about podcasting for years. He's put a lot of thought and consideration into how does he approach politics? How does he take this thing he's passionate of that all of a sudden can be very divisive and not make it divisive? And I think he's succeeded at that. And behind the scenes, I know that, you know, there have been a number of opportunities that have come Justin's way because people have seen this and seen his talent and have tried to figure out different ways that they could plug him into things. And, you know, for him, it's a matter of choice of what suits him the most too, is that, you know, the first big opportunity that comes your way, you know, before you have those opportunities may sound like, oh my God, this is the thing I got to do. But then you come to a point where like, I need to weigh this. I need to weigh this because I don't want to commit my next 5 years of my life to something that's not quite what I want to do, even though it's bigger than anything I've ever done.
Yeah, you know, it's part of it is also just having your own sense of exactly of just, you know, not even necessarily every goal ever in your life, but just, you know, a general North Star of where you want to move to. And I mean, like the best thing about what Brian was saying earlier about just going out and doing stuff is the more stuff you do, the clearer that picture becomes, you know. There is at least, at the very least, you are going to learn what you like to do and what you don't like to do. And you will learn what you're good at and what you're not good at, and where you can put a little bit of effort and make it pay off a ton. But, you know, the biggest thing is what Andrew was saying earlier, that, man, you can walk into something that's messy. And listen, the BitTorrent experience certainly wasn't messy. It was actually a lot of really high functioning people trying to do something very, very big with a limited amount of time and space. But you can look at that, and especially if you're on a gig thing and it's like you're just going to be out in 2 weeks or a week anyway, you can just kind of say, man, whatever, man, I'll just wait for someone to tell me what to do, and otherwise I'm going to be sitting here picking my belly button. Or you can, you know, invest your time and invest your effort, invest something to make it better, make it cooler and more. Like, be selfish about it. Make it more of what you want it to be. Make it more about what suits you, what makes you look good. And if there's going to be a power vacuum, then move on in and just, you know, do your best with it.
Well, and because then at that point, like, just know that whatever it is you do will not be what somebody pictured when they pictured the perfect version of it, but it will be something that exists versus something that there's a gap of problems between where they are now and where they want to be with the finished product. So then it's like no, I would not have picked, you know, this type of frame or this kind of framework, or, you know, I didn't, you know, I personally am more a Robotron guy instead of a Robotech instead of Pokemon or whatever. But the difference is, like, but we can adjust things with what we have something instead of nothing, in other words.
Yeah, and it will amaze you how much you are able to do when you are the one who's suggesting that you yourself does the work. You know?
Yeah.
Like it's just the more this can be. Hey, what if I do X, Y, and Z, and then you delegate the fifth hardest job to somebody that could probably do the second best job or the first best job? Then you will be amazed not only how well that will go if you put your time and effort into it, but how easier the second, the third, the fourth different projects, different things that you want to do are. You know, and that's really, especially in a group where you're just trying to gain trust and respect. It is all those little things. It's like the old story that, you know, if you're a PA on any kind of set, then you should always be at least jogging. You know, it's a little thing, but man, it is all the joggers that become the people who really run the set, and all the walkers that say that they one time had that PA job.
Yes, that's a really great way to put it. And not that you need to create an ostentatious display of pretending like you're working hard, but I mean, you should be doing things and working hard and figuring out what needs to be done.
One of my favorite stories is, he's a person who we've all sort of been impacted by his life, but it's not a story that's been as told as often as it should have been, and that's Henry Dunant. And he was a Swiss businessman who traveled around quite extensively. In 1859, he showed up in Italy during the middle of the Battle of Solferino, and it was a very, very deadly battle. There were 23,000 wounded that were laying across the battlefield, and there was nothing being done to take care of them, right? And this is a guy that was very good at organizing people, very successful, very, very successful in some dimensions in business and what have you. And he looked at this and he saw this human tragedy there, and he gathered as many of the women and girls he could from the town, gathered up materials, bought stuff himself, and they went out to the battlefield, and both sides started applying medical attention to them, trying to help the wounded, because neither army really took care of their own wounded, let alone the enemy combatants. And he and these people started taking care of everybody there. And that was the birth of the Red Cross. Is he saw this niche that needed to be filled. He saw this humongous humanitarian problem that needed to be taken care of, and that began there. And then in America, we had Clara Barton with the American Red Cross, and you had people who stepped in and said, if nobody else is going to take care of this, I'm going to do this.
This is this the same? I was Googling as you were saying it because I was convinced you were talking about the famous message to Garcia. Is that the story you're talking about right now?
I'm not familiar with
that. Oh man, yeah, no, this is great. If you just type in a message to Garcia, it was an essay written.
I texted Danny before. It's fine.
It's an essay written by Elbert Hubbard in 1899. The point of which is that somebody said we got to get a message to Garcia, and nobody did. He handed a letter. Guy didn't know who Garcia was, didn't know where he was, didn't know what the message was about, but was just like, yeah, all right, I'll get it there. And it's like your job is, if somebody says get this message to Garcia, you do what it takes to do it. It's a fantastic essay. In fact, that'll be my pick. Everybody take a moment. It's only like a 2-page essay, but read Message to Garcia. Just Google that.
Excellent. All right, gentlemen, let's jump into picks. Brian did his pick. Unless you have another.
I do have another, actually. My pick was going to be, I'm only halfway through it, but, we've talked about what a boost you can get out of certain motivational speakers. And I certainly, especially early on, quit my day job, relied very heavily on audio programs that, encouraged you to set goals and to make stuff happen, and you can get a great temporary, very effective boost, which is why I found it so interesting that Netflix did an original called, it's about just a Tony Robbins performance called I Am Not Your Guru. Did you guys watch this?
Not yet.
It's fascinating because I just went into it assuming that it was going to be basically like an infomercial for the transformative power of his sessions or whatever. But instead, Tony Robbins is cursing like a sailor right from the beginning.
He does that in his speech, his talks.
Well, and you could tell that that's a deliberate machination that he's doing. He's using transgressive language because it's been proven that like that's a heuristic people rely on to think, oh, I must be friends with this guy because I only hear that kind of language from my friends.
Yeah, it was a Werner Erhard thing for Est.
Wait, was that English? What did you just say?
Werner Erhard, he started Est, which became Landmark Forum, which was one of the biggest self-help movements in the 1970s. He was one of the big pioneers. He was one of the most prolific people to use the drop the F-bombs and all that, when he's doing this group therapy.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating. Anyway, I'm halfway through it, and there's brief moments when, it looks like he's working magic, and other brief moments he just looks like a bully shouting at people on stage. And this is somebody, I've gone through, I've listened and read to, a half dozen of his programs, and there are things that I like and things I don't like. But this is a very interesting collage of moments from that thing. It's certainly worth watching, I think.
Yeah, I'm curious to check it out. He's Tony Robbins is a fascinating character study, and I know that like coming from like the skeptics world, he always sort of baffled skeptics because on many marks he had this sort of charismatic guru sort of personality, but he was never a guy that tried to build this personal cult. He was a guy that wanted to build a brand. Some of his nutritional stuff is just outright BS. But people would sometimes take his firewalk out of context, where he's not really saying that you're not really doing magic when you walk the fire. And apparently, when this came out, he had another firewalk expo where people got burned.
Yeah.
But he's a very interesting person. I know a lot of very, rational people that have been very influenced by him, and I've read some of his stuff, and I think there's good dollops of wisdom in there, and I think there in some stuff that's sketchy. You have to take it as you go, but he is a very interesting figure. And interesting is the director of this is Joe Berlinger, who you may remember did the sequel to the Blair Witch Project.
Oh wow! No,
he
I
also
did not.
Did a documentary like about some horrific like child murder case or whatever. And I think I met his parents in South Florida at one point. Which was Paradise Lost. That's what he did before the Book of Shadows. But anyhow, so interesting, guy who's had some interesting documentary stuff and theatrical work doing it, and a fascinating topic for Netflix to do that. So I just want to say it's on my list that I do want to see this. His son, Tony Robbins' son, is a motivational speaker too.
Oh wow, yeah, I don't believe it. That's the kind of you could set up a dynasty like that.
Yeah. So very curious.
One note, of course, in many ways, a Tony Robbins to a new generation. DJ Khaled, who has a very influential and motivational Snapchat wherein he reveals his major keys to success, did an interview with Tony Robbins in which this exchange happened. Tony, one of my keys to success is a lot of pillows. I feel like a lot of pillows is important to relax each piece of your body. Every time you turn, you respect your greatness. Do you have a lot of pillows? To which Tony Robbins said, we have 20 kinds. We get on a plane and we take pillows. I'm with you. The key to success is having great pillows surrounding you.
That is amazing. When did that happen?
That was just this week, I think. DJ Khaled got a job
I have many multiples of pillows in my bedroom. I'm a big. You can never have too many pillows.
I feel like I'm underutilizing my pillow situation. This key to more success has been.
I get to a hotel, I'm like, bring me more pillows. Bring me more pillows.
Yeah, no, they're usually all right. That's good. All right, well, listen, another one. Hey, again, because media-wise, I've been a pauper lately. Go ahead and if you travel more than twice a year, all right. I know it's fun. I like to poke fun at my ridiculous, like the mile status stuff or whatever. This is something you can get no matter what. You go to Global Entry, the Global Entry program. It's the U.S. Border Customs and Borders Protection. You apply, you get an interview. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to get it.
It's a giant pain in the ass, and I've given up on even getting through it because I tried to change my date. You have to book 3 months in advance to get an appointment, and then you can't change it. And then they
yes, you can change it. I changed mine twice.
If you know your password, but if you have to have a one-off password, and your freaking LastPass has 12 different variations on it, and then you try on the third one, and it says, "Yeah, you get it wrong too much." And then it kicks you out, and then you have to request a new password, but it takes an hour for it to happen. It's a bit of a pain in the ass.
Okay, so it's a bit of a pain in the ass.
I have not successfully pulled it off, and I, more than most of the people listening, have a strong incentive to do this, and I still have not managed to. I've wasted days, literal days.
Do you have pre-check?
No, I did, but then I found out that but now that I'm flying mainly on miles these days, apparently when you are a frequent flyer, the airlines will oftentimes just quietly pay to put you in pre-check to encourage you to keep on flying. But then when you start flying on miles, they're less interested in making sure you get pre-check on there. So now it's kind of a random crapshoot.
Well, the good news is should you traverse the moat and the dragon and the last pass password generator, what you get is for a very mild $100, 5 years of a known passenger ID number, meaning you always get pre-check no matter what airline you're flying on, meaning you also can go through customs at a kiosk. You just like scan your thumb, they take a picture of you, you do all the things that they would normally ask you in the big gigantic line, and then you can walk right through. It is they just expanded it apparently that now you can also have the same privileges going in and out of the UK. And having talked to a bunch of traveling press people over the past 2 weeks, there was much of me extolling the benefits of global entry. Again, I everything that Brian says is absolutely true. Like, it is a pain to do it, and I had to move my appointment. I think twice actually, because who plans 3 months ahead of time?
My confusion was just like I did pre-check, and then I was trying to like global entry. I'm like, well, that's going like international. I don't do as much as that as I used to.
Well, the difference is you get guaranteed pre-check. Even if you subscribe to the pre-check program, most of the time it won't be a problem. But when you have global entry, all of the time you get pre-check.
Yeah. So I guess my question is like global entry also helps you with domestic, because like I fly.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that was my question. That was not
Yeah.
clear, because like I fly like Spirit a lot, and they don't pay for pre-check.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but global entry I could go through.
Yep.
Global entry, yeah. You get, because basically you just get, the government is recognizing you as a person.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah. I'll look into that. I was not clear to me because I am dumb.
So basically, yeah. When you book, there'll be like known passenger ID, like along with your name and address and everything. As long as you put that in, you're good to go.
Cool. So I have a pick and kind of a little bit of a hack.
Right on. I'm a fan
I've been
of this.
lately. I've been getting into this kick of listening to stuff that's written, like, generally speaking, 100 years ago or more, and it started by getting into some H.G. Wells. I listened to the original War of the Worlds, which I enjoyed. I'm not a guy that's like, I'm not a big lit guy. I'm not a big like, I prefer the original. I'm not that guy. I like fast paced. I like stuff like that. But I said, I want to sort of listen to some different things from different eras, just sort of to understand the genesis of different sort of, kinds of storytelling. So I listened to some H.G. Wells.
Sorry about that.
And then I thought I'd get into some Conan Doyle, and not as Sherlock Holmes stuff, but as other stuff like The Lost World, right? The Professor Challenger story. And I discovered something when I was like, I'm looking on Amazon, and like you'll find that a lot of stuff that's fallen into public domain, there'll be like 9 billion versions of it. You don't quite know which one to get. And then you're like, man, do I want to pay $10 or $15 for this or whatever? But sometimes they say, hey, buy the Kindle book and then get this version cheaper. But then I found something interesting, is that for a number of these books, particularly stuff like that, like let's say The Lost World, if you go look at that up on
Project
Audible
Gutenberg.
right now to see what it costs to purchase. Let's see. Audible, Lost World, wait for that to load. You'll see that, you could get for like, you could spend your credit, and you could buy it like the unabridged version for like $9.80 or whatever, okay? But if you go look up The Lost World on Amazon and you find the Kindle version, which might be 99 cents or free, okay? So I'm looking at this one with sort of this generic sort of book cover for it. You click on it, and for me, because I'm an Amazon Prime member, the Kindle price is free, and then there's a little thing below. It says buy with one click. Below that, it says add Audible narration to your purchase for just $2.99.
Whoa!
So for $3, I bought the full audiobook of Lost World, which now pops up on my Audible, pops up on Alexa, and I go to bed at night. I say, read me The Lost World. So I've been finding that a number of those titles, if you go through Amazon first and you look for the Kindle versions, you can find them for like $3 or 99 cents or what have you. And that's a great name for a Kindle, by the way. You can so find these sort of deals. So right now I just started listening to King Solomon's Mines, which is considered like the first, the archetypal Lost World sort of story. It was about the Alan Quatermain stories. This is a book written in like 1888 or something to that effect. And I found that, get this is like a 10-hour audiobook, and you can get it for free, get the ebook for free, and then for 99 cents you can get the Audible version.
That's awesome.
So that's a little Henry Rider Hazard. So that's a way that you can get some really cheap, full length, like 10-hour long Audible books for like $1, $2, $3 via Audible. If you have an Amazon account and an Audible account, go to Amazon first, look up the Kindle versions, and you'll often see add the Audible narration for very cheap, and often the Kindle thing will be for free. So my pick is The Lost World by Arthur Conan Doyle.
That is awesome. In fact, I kind of feel like I might, I don't know. I'm going to poke around on that, but I kind of feel like I might in as I find myself Scrooge McDuck like awash in Audible credits that tend to stack up a little bit, that maybe this might be giving the Audible subscription a rest for a little bit.
Yeah, they pile up when you don't have a lot of time, and then you burn through them. And so
that's frustrating.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out what do I do with my HBO subscription, because right now it's
there ain't no reason.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. It's been after.
Hey, now that the show's over, I thought it might be fun, because I know nobody's going to go and look up A Message to Garcia. It's only 2 pages. Can I read it right now?
I know that nobody will take me seriously enough.
Well, just because everybody will intend to, nobody will do it.
Yes, please.
Yeah, let me just read it real quick. This is A Message to Garcia by Elbert Hubbard, 1899. In all this Cuban business, there is one man stands out on the horizon of my memory like Mars at perihelion. When war broke out between Spain and the United States, it was very necessary to communicate quickly with the leader of the insurgents. Garcia was somewhere in the mountain fastnesses? What's a fastnesses? Fastnesses. Garcia was somewhere in the mountain fastnesses of Cuba. No one knew where. No mail or telegraph could reach him. The president must secure his cooperation, and quickly. What to do? Someone said to the president, "There's a fellow by the name of Rowan who will find Garcia for you, if anybody can." Rowan was sent for and given a letter to be delivered to Garcia. How, quote, the fellow by the name of Rowan, end quote, took the letter, sealed it up in an oilskin pouch, strapped it over his heart, in 4 days landed by night off the coast of Cuba from an open boat, disappeared into the jungle, and in 3 weeks came out on the other side of the island, having traversed hostile country on foot, and having delivered the letter to Garcia, are things I have no special desire now to tell in detail. The point I wish to make is this. McKinley gave Rowan a letter to be delivered to Garcia. Rowan took the letter and did not ask, "Where is he at?" By the Eternal, there's a man whose form should be cast in deathless bronze, and the statue placed in every college in the land. It is not book learning young men need, nor instruction about this or that, but a stiffening of the vertebrae that will cause them to be loyal to a trust, to act promptly, concentrate their energies, do the thing, carry a message to Garcia. General Garcia is dead now, but there are other Garcias. No man who has endeavored to carry out an enterprise where many hands were needed, but has been well nigh appalled at times by the imbecility of the average man, the inability or unwillingness to concentrate on a thing and do it. Slipshod assistance, foolish inattention, dowdy indifference, and half-hearted work seem to be the rule. And no man succeeds unless by hook or crook or threat he forces or bribes other men to assist him. Or mayhap God in his goodness performs a miracle and sends him an angel of light for an assistance. You, reader, put this matter to a test. You're sitting now in your office. 6 clerks are within your call. Summon any one of them and make this request. Please go to the encyclopedia and make a brief memorandum for me concerning the life of Correggio. Will the clerk quietly say, "Yes, sir," and go to the task? Or on your life he will not. He will look at you out of a fishy eye and ask one or more of the following questions. Who was he? Which encyclopedia? Where's the encyclopedia? Was I hired for that? Don't you mean Bismarck? What's the matter with Charlie doing it? Oh, is he dead? Is there any hurry? Shan't I bring you the book and let you look it up for yourself? What do you want to know for? And I will lay to you 10 to 1 that after you have answered the questions and explain how to find the information and why you want it, the clerk will go off and get one of the other clerks to help him find Garcia and then come back and tell you there is no such man. Of course, I may lose my bet, but according to the law of average, I will not. Now, if you are wise, you will not bother to explain to your assistant that Correggio is indeed indexed under C's, not the K's. You will smile sweetly and say, never mind, and go look it up yourself. And this incapacity for independent action, this moral stupidity, this infirmity of the will, this unwillingness to cheerfully catch hold and lift are the things that put pure socialism so far into the future. If men will not act for themselves, what will they do when the benefit of their effort is for all? A first mate with knotted club seems necessary, and the dread of getting the bounce Saturday night holds many worker in place. I guess that's getting lit on the weekend. Advertise for a stenographer, and 9 times out of 10, who apply can neither spell nor punctuate, and do not think it necessary to. Can such a one write a letter to Garcia? You see that bookkeeper, said the foreman to me in a large factory. Yes, what about him? Well, he's a fine accountant, but if I send him to town for an errand, he might accomplish the errand all right, and on the other hand, he might stop at 4 saloons on the way, and when he got to Main Street, would forget what he had been sent for. Can such a man be entrusted to carry a message to Garcia? We have recently been hearing much maudlin sympathy expressed for the, quote, downtrodden denizen of the sweatshop and the, quote, homeless wanderer searching for an honest employment. And with it all often go many hard words for the men in power. Nothing is said about the employer who grows old before his time in a vain attempt to get frowsy ne'er-do-wells, frowsy ne'er-do-wells is a good phrase, to do intelligent work, and his long patient striving with help that does nothing but loaf when his back is turned. In every store and factory, there's constant weeding out of process going on. The employer is constantly sending away help that have shown their incapacity to further the interests of the business, and others being taken on. No matter how good times are, this sorting continues. Only if times are hard and work is scarce, this sorting is done much finer. But out and forever out, the incompetent and the unworthy go. It is the survival of the fittest. Self-interest prompts every employer to keep the best, those who can carry a message to Garcia. I know of one man of really brilliant parts who has not the ability to manage a business on his own, and yet who is absolutely worthless to anyone else because he carries with him constantly the insane suspicion that his employer is oppressing or intending to oppress him. He cannot give orders, and he will not receive them. Should a message be given to him to take to Garcia, his answer would probably be, take it yourself. Tonight, this man walks the streets looking for work, the wind whistling through his threadbare coat. No one knows him, dare employ him, for he's a regular firebrand of discontent. He is impervious to reason, and the only thing that can impress him is the toe of a thick-soled No. 9 boot. Of course, I know that one so morally deformed is no less to be pitied than a physical cripple. Oh, geez. But in your pitting, let us drop a tier 2 for the men who are striving to carry on a great enterprise, whose working hours are not limited by the whistle, whose hair is fast on turning white through the struggle to hold the line in dowdy indifference, slipshod imbecility, and the heartless ingratitude which, but for their enterprise, would be both hungry and homeless. Have I put the matter too strongly? Possibly I have. But when all the world is gone a-slumming, I wish to speak a word of sympathy for the man who succeeds, a man who, against great odds, has directed the efforts of others, and having succeeded, finds there's nothing in it, nothing but bare board and clothes. I have carried a dinner pail and worked for a day's wages. I have carried a dinner pail and worked for a day's wages. I have also been an employer of labor, and I know there is something to be said on both sides. There is no excellence, per se, in poverty. Rags are no recommendation, and all employers are not rapacious and high-handed any more than all poor men are virtuous. My heart goes out to the man who does this work and when the boss is away, as well when he is at home. And the man who, when given a letter to Garcia, quietly takes the missive without asking any idiotic questions and with no lurking intention of chucking it into the nearest sewer or of doing aught else but deliver it, never gets laid off. Nor has to go on strike for higher wages. Civilization is one long, anxious search for just such individuals. Anything such a man asks will be granted. His kind, Anything such a man asks will be granted. His kind is so rare that no employer can afford to let him go. He's wanted in every city, town, and village, in every office, shop, store, and factory. The world cries out for such. He is needed and needed badly, the man who can carry a message to Garcia. Which
What night was that read at the Republican National Convention?
Oh, I know, right? Yeah, it's really it definitely comes from an age of aristocracy and of plutocracy and so on.
Yeah, but no, but there's a core point. You know, that was I when I went to work for Penn and Teller doing stuff creatively for them. Randy, amazing Randy, sold them on the idea. Said, there's a street in New York City where they have like all the sort of random junk stuff or whatever kind of thing. And Randy said, Andrew's the kind of guy that can find you this thing, whatever, on that street.
Yep.
And that was, because it was just, he thought of me as being very resourceful. And so, and that is a thing to think about. It's like, yeah, people who stand around and ask, how do we do it?
Well, and that's just it. Is you could, it's the difference between doing and having reasons. Just don't have reasons why you don't do a thing. All right, I gotta go. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. There he goes.
There he is.
Brian Brushwood. It's the 2-page essay and drops the mic.
Bryce, does he read this to you?
No, this was the first time, but I don't think it'll be the last.
Have a talk. He pulls up the letter.
Listen, have I told you about the letter to Garcia? Look, it's only 2 pages. Let me read it to you.
Why isn't there ketchup here? Why isn't there any ketchup? I'm gonna have to read you the letter, Garcia.
All right, I'm gonna tap out here too.
All right.
Bye. Thank you, Bryce.
Bye, guys.
Guys.
Stings.